Hey folks, this is Martin Seidel again from Austrian Audio. I hope you're all doing well, and thanks for tuning in for another episode of this series. So if you don't want to miss any of our videos, please subscribe to our channel or click the notification bell just below. Today we want to talk a little bit about live sound in broadcast. One of the real challenges for every sound engineer. One of the guys who would be called in to solve any challenge or any problem for large production is Michael Abbott. He is spontaneous, always stays calm, but he has the technical excellence to solve any issue. We are very proud to have him today talking about our new headphone, the Hi-X65.
So good morning, Michael. Thank you very much for spending some of your extremely valuable time with us. And just wanted to ask you, how are you doing these days? How is life in sunny California?
Well, today it is sunny in California. It's good, for the most part, considering the various people that aren't good. Uh, it's been an interesting year of new procedures, new innovations, new technical trends being implemented. It's been an education. Let's put it that way.
That's a perfect link. Let's go back to business for a moment. Michael, what are you working on at the moment? What interesting projects do you have lined up for this year?
Well, the business as it is right now, it's very interesting, the jobs that I get and how much notice out front. It used to be 2 to 3 months when a project got offered and put on in front of me. Nowadays, sometimes we need to shoot in 2 days, this simple little Zoom music show. It's all about agility. It's all about scalability. Uh, I've, of course, just finished the Grammys with your support with the 818 mics. I'm loading in The Voice next week. We're starting season 20 for 10 years that I've been doing The Voice with our live series, which shoots for about 3 weeks. Then we go on to another 21st season of The Voice in June, starting the preliminary recordings. We got Shark Tank coming up. So I've got a corporate show up in Silicon Valley that loads in next week that goes for 10 days. So it's, for me, again, I'm very, very fortunate that I've got a workflow and a client base that's evolved over the years.
Yeah,
in this pandemic.
It sounds like they keep you away from home for quite a while again.
Yeah.
Michael, when we talk about your studio, can you tell us a little bit about the studio? What is your setup? What are your maybe 3 favorite pieces of gear you're using?
Well, I'm in a position as a broadcast mixer. I work in different environments. Almost every project is a different platform. Mostly they're in what you would call OB trucks in the Euro. I work with a company, NEP, which is worldwide, and they have video trucks, 53-foot tractor trailer expandos with, typically it would hold 15 people. Nowadays it's 5 and everybody's outboarded to external trailers. The equipment that I'm most fortunate to work with is the CalRack audio consoles. Typically it's an Apollo, sometimes it's a Studer, Vista, other times it could be a Lavo. So, and then when I'm doing field recordings, I've got a Yamaha CL5, which is very utilitarian, but it's mostly for archive and capture. Another tool in my quiver of equipment is the Waves plugins, which provides me with a lot of different options. I call it my palette of audio, and I can pick and choose as needed to, clean up the mixes or do processing, a wide variety. I've got a Mercury bundle in it, a bunch of broadcast skewed processing. My home studio, I'm using an SSL2 Plus interface, audio interface, which is what I was listening through the headphones, the Austrian Audio headphones for my evaluation. So that's, in broad strokes, that's kind of the scenario of equipment that I work with.
Great, great. Well, looking back on your matchless career for a moment, sound designing the Grammy ceremonies for quite some time, being responsible for major events such as Super Bowl ceremonies, World Soccer Championships, etc., etc. Would you maybe like to share with us for a moment what was one of the biggest challenge you were once faced with?
Well, I've done a lot of these events, as you mentioned. Some I haven't done for years. The Super Bowl was back in the '80s, late '80s. The Academy Awards I worked on for about 11 years with a particular group of people that were producing it at that time. The Grammys this year was the 34th year I've done the Grammys, and probably the 25th that I've in my position as the audio producer, coordinator, project manager, whatever. When you ask different people, they all give me different titles because there's a lot of producers already. And This year, in particular, with what we did at the Grammys, the challenge is we had a postponement because of the surge. We typically start working on the show 2 months in advance, with fairly good intent. Uh, Throughout the year, I work with Eric Schilling and John Harris, and the Recording Academy for innovation. What is it that we want to try to do different that would benefit the audio of the show? There's a vetting that goes on, and then as I said, this year we got postponed till middle of March, which was good and bad because then it gave the artists the opportunity to change their creative, what they were going to do. What evolved was a pre-tape of 20 performances on site over a period of 4 days. And then we had 2 performances that were self-produced by the artist over in Korea and here in Los Angeles. And the challenges are for, say, the Grammys, we have a very specific sound design placement of the sources in the sound field, and getting the artist to understand what the challenges are and how we do it, especially with an artist overseas that didn't have fluent English, using technical terms. That was a challenge. And at some point they finally agreed that we needed to do the mix as opposed to them, which for this particular act was a pretty monumental decision on their behalf. And the fact that they trusted us to do what was needed was based on their experiences in the past on the show with us. So we finished taping all the pre-tapes at the LA Convention Center on the Thursday before the Sunday show, which meant that Friday we'd already done 50 mixes, averaging 2 per artist over the 4 days, a preliminary mix and a secondary mix for them to take away, listen, QC, and add notes. Excuse me. That Friday, we then did another 75 mixes in a 14-hour period, with some artists getting 8 passes for their approval. That workflow of file management was overwhelming, and it reached a critical mass because at that point, once we got the audio approved, then we had to push it to our post house via a secure link. The post house had to lay it into the video that they edited, and then it got pushed further to a sound house, sound design, for audio conform and leveling and sweetening and what have you not. Then it got pushed back to the post house as a composited audio file. They laid it in, pushed that file back to us. So at this point, we're dealing with a massive amount of video files to QC on top of already the audio that we've done. At some point we felt we were going to run out of time to service all these artists. So that was a new workflow that the Grammys has never done, because we've always traditionally been live for the years I've been working on the show. It manifested itself in probably one of the best quality audio mix broadcast that the Grammys has done, at least. And by virtue of all the other shows that have transpired since then, over the past 3 months, I think the Grammy stands up against anything, both creative, the vision of our new producer, Ben Winston, and the sonic production overall.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. I can very
Yeah.
much confirm that. I witnessed some of the productions of the recent Grammy show, and it was definitely outstanding. So it was
Thank you.
fantastic result. Maybe another moment, what was one of the most moving moments you experienced in your long time career? What was one of the most heartwarming moments in your productions?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been blessed with a lot of very special events that I've been asked to work on. Um, you know, you get caught up in the emotion if you do. You kind of try to stay removed so you can do your job effectively. Um, Several years ago, we had, you know, and this is not a positive one, but it was a very heartwarming uh, event. We had a mass shooting in Florida, and about a month later, they had a an event in Washington D.C. in front of the Capitol with about 150,000 people showing up, and the victims and the gun right activists and celebrities came and gave speeches to the crowd, and I was tasked with doing, I think, I had 9 live performances with various Jennifer Holliday, and I forget all the other acts that we dealt with, but I was doing everything. I was mixing the music, I was doing the production. But you know, you walk out of the booth knowing that you've done something at that moment of significance, and then it pales in comparison a month later. You know, it goes into the memory of you know, the shows I do. I just did a reunion show with the cast of Friends, a sitcom here in America that was very, very popular back in the day. And we had actually, it was the first live audience that I've mixed in over a year, of 90 people in bleachers. And the content, the engagement of the cast, the ensemble with the host and the audience, it's very subliminal, but I walked away from it feeling really good, you know? So the best moments are sometimes the most unexpected. Had I done this show prior to the pandemic, which, by the way, it was the first show that got canceled in March last year for me, I don't know if I would have felt as good, warm and fuzzy, but you know, it varies. If I can walk away from a project feeling good that I've given it all and what I've provided, that's the best sense of accomplishment that I have. Because you do so many different shows, you know, you don't want to become jaded comparing one against the other. So that's a very difficult question. I hope I answered as best I can.
Fine, thank you very much. Very, very nice, very nice. Well, coming back to the Austrian audio headphones, in the recent weeks, you were one of the very first persons on this planet who had the chance to test this new mixing mastering headphones, the Hi-X65. In which situations have those headphones performed well for you, actually?
Well, I basically did evaluations with music tracks that I'm familiar with, obviously, and it was coincidental. I have a pair of Magnaplane electrostatic speakers. I don't know if you're familiar. They're very old. They're 40 years old. They've been sitting in my garage, and I pulled them out just to do an evaluation, and I was listening to them, and what I was dumbstruck was the the imaging, the stereo imaging. It's a very unique response with that type of technology. Forwarding to the headphones, I used those same tracks as reference when I was doing my evaluation. What I was most struck by was, again, the imaging, the stereo image Because as mainstream, for what I do, I have to listen to communications, the PL, the intercom. So I can't really wear headphones full time, but I do use them for QC, for critical listening. If I'm in the field, definitely using headphones for a field recording. But the primary aspect that I was struck by was the imaging, and then the low frequency response for open headphones, which I put on a Childish Gambino's album. I forget the albums I listened to, but it was, what was a good reference is that there's no hype in a electrostatic speakers. It's very natural. And if the mastering is there for the low frequency response, you'll hear it. If it isn't, it disappears. Well, the same situation occurred with the headphones, where there was no hype in the frequency response that I could, observe or hear. But at the same time, when there was a low frequency passage with, say, an 808 sampler, that was reproduced very, very efficiently and linearly.
Fantastic. Mhm. When we think a little bit about a pair of headphones, acoustics, of course, is something we all focus on very much, we as a producer, you as a user. But when you think a little bit ahead of that, as far as the mechanics are concerned, how comfortable are they sitting on your ears? Was there something you would like to mention? Is there something that you realized that was kind of outstanding?
Well, it's a very valid point. Nowadays, with all these manufacturers of in-ear, earbuds, I've got a couple of sets that I've acquired over the years, and for long-term listening, everybody complains about how they impact your ear canal, that you get sore. Um, so I immediately, when I think of headphones, I think of over-the-ear headphones. And putting these on, there was a definite snug, comfortable feel that I would expect. And especially if I had, say, I was a studio engineer wearing them long-term, or if I'm in the field, I don't want a physical fatigue when I put on headphones. And I feel these headphones provided that.
Okay. Mhm. Mhm. For which purpose actually do you mainly use your headphones? Is it mainly for live productions, of course, because you do a lot of them, or is it also for mixing sometimes in your environment?
Well, if I'm at home and it's at night and I've got a project that I'm doing, yeah, I would wear them at home. In the field, in a video truck, again, I say I have to listen to communication, so I can't really put headphones on. I sometimes develop a mix minus, so to speak, where I have the program and I inject the intercom into my headphones so I can hear if the director calls me. But again, now I'm not in a critical listening environment because there's so much ambient noise. There's re-entry of my mix from that microphone from the director or the AD talking to me. When I'm in the field doing a field recording, say I've been doing quite a few music records of performances for being edited and later broadcast. And some of those environments, it's out on a street, it's in a noisy hallway. Uh, it's less than perfect acoustics. I can put speakers up, but I still can't critically listen. So field recording, it becomes imperative. It's a tool that I have to have in order to monitor the mix. The other aspect is if there's something I'm focused on critical, which would be the like a vocal mic for response. I'd want to make sure what I'm hearing is as natural when I'm recording it.
Right, right. Well, absolutely understandable. Well, okay. Thank you very much again, because this was it as far as my questionnaire is concerned.
Oh, okay.
Is there anything else you would like to add from your side as far as Austrian Audio in total overall is concerned, or as far as the headphones you tested is concerned?
I in terms of additional comments, I do want to go on the record, dating back several, a decade or more, the support you have given me in my career. And with the Austrian Audio evolving, I recall the meeting we had at the NAMM show in Anaheim maybe 5 years ago now. I can't remember exactly.
Not that long. I think it was 3 or 4. Yeah, I think it was 4 years ago.
Yeah. The pandemic stretches everything out. But anyways, you didn't have a working component at that time, but you shared with me where you were going and what you were doing.
Right.
And then you provided me with a matched pair for evaluation.
Right.
And the best moment, I think, was at the Hollywood Bowl with I think it was like a 60+ orchestra.
Yeah, I remember. Correct.
Film
Yes.
track, Coco.
Yeah.
Which I think is on Disney Plus here in America. I'm sure it's over there. And I was able to, I had 3 or 4 Latin percussion sections. And one of them, the player was Alex Acuna.
Alex Acuna,
who
correct.
goes back to Weather Report days. He's played with everybody. And he had a myriad of instrumentation. And what we would do is, in the body of the show, we'd move the mic to a featured instrument that he was playing. And, he was listening to it as well. And I think he reached out to you, or I connected.
Yes,
you.
we were in contact.
It was amazing for percussion, which is one of my favorite, of all the instruments, percussion, capturing it naturally is sometimes the biggest challenge, given all the ambient noise floor you have around. But that microphone, that set of mics performed flawlessly, and
fantastic.
It's by virtue of that you can hear it in the mix what that percussion was being captured with. Yeah. But overall, what Austrian Audio has done for me, and I think some of my associates, Randy Faustino at his company, RT Mix, is provide support with your hardware, and it's invaluable, to have these tools. It sets the bar quite high for what I do.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, thank you very much.
I thank you too, and please have a nice day today.